Hello and welcome to Personable, a podcast focused on speaking to the world's best, enabling you to become the best you can be. Today, I'm honoured to be joined by DeMari Davis. DeMari is a graduate from Cumberland University, as well as being a stockbroker at Vanguard. But most recently, he has been known for winning Season 6 of Too Hot to Handle. I'm incredibly excited to learn more and speak to DeMari today. I'm an avid watcher of Too Hot to Handle. Please don't take that the wrong way. It's more just for research purposes. I felt like I had to watch the whole show. But I wanted to get started, Tamari. If you could describe what your life was like before going on Too Hot to Handle.
Honestly, man, you described it really well. Thank you for having me here today too, Harvey. So basically before Too Hot to Handle, we can kind of go, I'm not gonna go too far back, but we'll go like college. I played basketball all throughout college, like all over, honestly. I jumped around. I went to 3 schools in college, and I graduated from Cumberland University, like we were talking about. And then after that, I was pursuing a professional career in basketball. And with that, I played professional for 2 years here in the U.S., just like a league right under the G League, trying to get into the G League and like go to some of the bigger overseas markets. Didn't work out that way. And then from there, I was like into modeling the whole time and just trying to really find my way in life, honestly. So with that, moved out to Phoenix, Arizona from Indianapolis, Indiana, and then I started as I'm pursuing modeling and basketball, I ended up working at Vanguard as a stockbroker for a little over 2 years. So then, that's all during the whole, like, before the show process. So that's one of the reasons I think it got me on there. It kind of gave a different dynamic to the show, having somebody who has like an actual serious job. Everybody's like models. So doing that as well. But yeah, so that was kind of my life before, man. Just like working 9 to 5 job every single day. Not as fun, we'll say that.
No?
but yeah.
So what was your like initial goal? Like before even Too Hot to Handle or reality shows were in your mind? Like where you're working at Vanguard, you're doing some like modeling, the basketball hasn't worked out. Like,
Mhm.
if I asked you like what did you want to be in 10 years at that point in time, what would you have said?
So right before the show came out, that's what you're asking.
I'm asking you like before Too Hot to Handle was even a thing in your mind.
A
Like you've
thought.
got this nine
Okay.
to five before it's even a thought. You've stopped basketball. You're working a corporate 9 to 5. Like what was the goal? Was it to leave? Was it to get promoted in that? Like what was your way
It
of
was.
thinking at the time?
I have a very entrepreneurial mind, so the goal was never to be like corporate CEO at Vanguard and like be that guy. I definitely was like, all right, I got to figure something out. I've always like wanted to do like music and stuff like that and modeling. So my goal, even moving out towards Phoenix, Arizona, was to get out to LA so I could do more modeling there. So that I think that was kind of the goal. Model, somehow end up getting into acting, like actual scripted acting, and that was like more so the goal. So I was really trying to figure it out after basketball, man. Like I got my degree in school and business and just started working corporate America because it's like, all right, I don't want to be broke anymore. So,
I
but
think
yeah, it was like still a passion though. Like I really grew to learn and love so much like the like stocks and really just financial industry.
I think what's interesting about your story, and I think like a lot of what people will bring to light about you, which we can talk about later on, with you being on Too Hot to Handle and you now being this personality and your like social life, but you still had that foundation of going to university, of getting educated, and then working in a really good job. I've actually interviewed 2 actors now on my podcast. One being she's called Sinetra Sarkar, mostly based in the UK. And
Okay.
have you ever heard of a show called Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Dawn? It was like a kids, maybe you haven't, but it was like a kids Nickelodeon show, got like tens of millions of views. And the podcast I'm going to put out probably next week was with a guy called Casey Simpson. He has like 15 plus million followers online. And he was a
Wow.
child actor and has like, gone into that. And I think the way that people often think about that sort of media space and acting space is, oh, wow, they just became an actor. But I think with your story, it seemed like, no, you've got this job, you work at it on the side, and then when the time is right, you make that transition.
Exactly. So I actually think the same thing. Like, because before I'm like not being like in the entertainment industry, not really talking to many of those people. Like, I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, bro. I know you're from the UK, so you don't really know too much about Indiana like that. But like, this is like blue collar. You know what I mean? Like everybody's hard working individuals. Everybody has like like it's like a lot of warehouses, it's a lot of those types of jobs, you know. So like construction stuff like that. So nobody's really aiming for like the stars. Like I wanted to go to the NBA, like all those type of dreams. Like people were like, "Oh, buddy, maybe you should have a side thing to do," you know, like just in case that didn't work. But like going out into these industries and stuff like that, and seeing people that have a similar story to mine, like or have a completely opposite. Most of the time, it's like you were saying, like child actor, child model, child something of the sort of that industry. So it's actually really cool to be able to like show the other side of it, because it is a lot of people that have had to do that, but I don't think the light is shined on that enough.
And I mean, the main thing that I think a lot of people would know you for is going on this show called Too Hot to Handle.
Mhm.
Please, could you describe what what the premise of the show is for those listening?
Yeah, to simplify it a little bit, basically, it's just a bunch of horny young adults going onto a show, basically going to sex rehab and kind of being on there, kind of getting them to like see if they can actually still find love and find a meaningful connection in this whole process. And yeah, that's the best answer I got
Yeah.
for you.
I think that's a well prepared answer. I'm going to add to my description and my view of it. I agree. It's sort of like 12, 14, or whatever the number was, individuals who are like, it was originally called like Pleasure Island or something. So all these individuals think they're going on this reality show, all surrounded by models or people that look like models, think they're going to have basically the best time of their life. And then this like AI computer thing called Lana, as we see it, comes on this cone, and that basically introduced the idea that there's going to be a prize pool of like $100,000 or $200,000, and every time you kiss someone or do some form of sexual gratification or anything beyond that, it knocks off $3,000, $6,000, $10,000, $20,000 of prize money. And a lot of these people, although they love that sort of stuff, at the same time they all like money and whatnot. And so the whole premise of the show is to basically learn to restrain from those sexual activities. But what I think the reason I bring that up is your season was different in that you guys actually knew you were going on Too Hot to Handle instead of Pleasure Island. So a lot of the previous people would be like, I'm going on this reality show, it's going to be the best time of my life. And then they're suddenly told, oh no, you have to refrain from sexual activities and there's this prize pool. And they didn't know that. Whereas with your season, you guys knew in advance. So I'd love to hear like how you heard about the show in terms of like being able to apply for it, what made you want to apply, particularly with this like constraint, and if it was actually a constraint to you or you didn't really care.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as an adult individual, you know, I would love to be able to show some type of intimacy in a time frame like that. But yeah, so I mean, I did care when I got reached out to. Like, obviously, like it kind of was crazy because it happened multiple ways. But the main way, honestly, was my brother. He's a huge fan of the show. Him and his wife watch it all the time. So uh, like he used to talk to me about the show, like multiple reality shows that they watch together, but specifically Too Hot to Handle. He's like, bro, I think if you ever went on that show, you would absolutely kill it. And it was like a month before. So I think that's kind of like
Wow.
he knew, you know what I mean? Like or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. But it was like he like applied to get me onto the show, and then it ended up happening like that where like he was the reason that I ended up getting on the show. So that kind of adds like a huge wrinkle into that. And I even talked about it on the show too, that like he was the reason that I'm on the show, and he's married, got 4 kids. You know what I mean? So he's like, bro,
Yeah.
you need to basically go to sex rehab. like, like that's the kind of premise there. So yeah.
I think you've kind of given your answer there, but what do you think the goal was for you when you were going on the show? Because I think for a lot of people, from an external perspective, it could be,
Mhm.
wow, these people are all going to become really famous, or they're
Mhm.
going to earn a lot of money.
Mhm.
What was the goal for you, and how do you think that differs to the rest of the people on the show, even in your season or in prior seasons?
Yeah, on the show, man, like I talk about it a lot. I definitely saw that I needed like a change. I've always kind of just been out in the field doing what I want to do in the dating scene, and I think that it was good for me to go on there and like actually try to find like a real connection and real like love, possibly. You know what I mean? And I didn't think that it would like really happen and actually be like as strong as it was. I would say, like, because I mean, we'll talk about it later exactly what happens on the show, but I ended up finding that connection, and I was like actually really, really, really surprised. So for me, going on there, the personal journey of like, okay, why am I like this? What am I doing? Like, is it okay when I'm doing out here? The way that I'm treating women, is it okay? The way that I'm treating myself in that, is that okay? So just asking myself those tough questions, and like Lana actually helped through those with some of the workshops that she did, like the mirror workshop that we did, and the womb workshop. Obviously, like I had a pretty big part in that. Which was like crazy, bro. Like it's a movie that I know. It's called Baby Boy, and he's like in the womb at the beginning of the show. And the movie, I'm like, bro, this is crazy. Not I'm like in the womb like he was. His name's like Tyrese Gibson, but yeah.
But I hate to play devil's advocate,
Hmm.
but you're a pretty smart guy.
Hmm.
Had that education, you worked as a stockbroker, and sure, maybe there were certain things you had to deal with yourself.
Hmm.
But doing it in a public forum, going through all this, and like hopefully you met the love of your life there, and that stays like that forever. But the
Hmm.
fact that that's out there forever, and millions of people, even like me, a kid from a random island in the UK, has now watched that entire show. Like, did that or does that matter to you at all, or not? Because the benefits you get from it in terms of like overcoming your past mistakes outweigh it.
Um, seeing if you would have asked me before, because like I knew the show was huge. Just like obviously it's on Netflix. Like, granted,
Yeah.
it's gonna be big, but I didn't know how big the show was because I wasn't like a huge watcher of the show. I never really watched it. So, um, like seeing how big that show is and stuff like that, and after and like going places and seeing that people know me, and like even just the looks that I'll get from people, even if they don't say, "Hey, I know who you are," I can like see their face. They'll be like, "What?" Like
Yeah.
that's the guy. You know what I mean? So like so like it's tough because like I guess like you don't know people's true intentions sometimes. And also you don't know like what they know or what they think, or you automatically have some type of idea about me before I ever started. Luckily, I did have the background of like being a college athlete, being a professional athlete for a little bit. So like people already were being prejudiced anyway. So like like they already had some type of idea, but it's just magnified, obviously. So I kind of do have to fight against that, no matter like obviously I me and Bree we're doing pretty well right now. So we're doing really well right now, honestly, and so like that's going well. So I don't have to worry about the dating scene right now. So hopefully it stays that way, honestly. And yeah, so I don't really have to worry about that right now. There's no need to think about it if I don't have to. Put it that way. Yeah.
I think I've the big one, the first like reality show. Again, just watched it for research. That I watched was called Love Island.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Love Island UK. I think I watched it in like 2017 or something. And as
Mm.
you've noticed, I'm pretty young, so I was probably about 13 at the time. So wow, it's quite a while like ago. But the Love Island was basically a similar thing in which you try and couple up, and then after like every week or so, like there's an extra male or extra female, so someone gets cut off the show. But essentially, it's a similar idea in that I don't want to say locked in, but you're in a villa with the same people with limited access to the outside world.
Mm.
The key parts are filmed and then put into like an online program. But
Yeah.
they're always wearing mics, and it always seems like at the perfect moments, this boy or this girl is going to pull them for a chat. And it's similar on Too Hot to Handle that every time you want a conversation to happen, it just magically happens. And so I'm not going to ask like about specific moments on the show, but with them wanting to create a program and create something that's actually watchable for the consumer, for the viewer, did you ever feel like pressured at times to act a certain way or to like have certain conversations that you didn't necessarily want to have in order to make good TV?
Um, that's a great question, actually.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.
yeah. I would say I didn't feel the pressure because, like you said, these are like directors. They know what they're looking for. So, like sometimes, like you think, like you'll go to a confessional, right? And you'll say, "Hey, I think I need to have a conversation with somebody about how I feel right now," and then you're having that conversation. You know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like I get the choice to like not have it. Really, you know what I mean? It's like, oh damn. So I like I think it made me actually be able to address my feelings in the moment more. Um, and that was actually a really hard thing for me. Like it would take me weeks, months to like kind of process my feelings sometimes, but I'm processing those in a day or two because I'm talking about my feelings all the time. So it was just like pure. Like I'm actually ending up saying exactly how I feel to this person in the moment, and able to articulate that to them instead of me just like waiting and holding back, and then like maybe I never get to say it. So it's actually made like more progress for me, like emotionally, I would say. But yeah, so sometimes it just happens. Like it's not like you're pressured into doing anything or like ever, honestly.
I think another thing, like, I think I keep drawing to Love Island because I watched it and, like, it's
Yeah.
informed my younger brain, so maybe it was preparation the whole time. But sadly, like, from that show, like, one or two people have, like, committed suicide, or overdosed from it due to, like, mental health reasons, with a lot of, like, backlash from the show from feeling like, you know, too much pressure maybe with their own lives, but it was kind of amplified by the shows.
Mm.
And like certain people, have their own issues with mental health. But with regard to the show, I'm not saying that you or anyone else is depressed or anxious or whatever. But I still feel like being in an environment in which there's no escape, like even myself in like day-to-day life, whether in romantic relationships or school or work or anything otherwise, like, sometimes I just need some like time to myself and to relax. Whereas in
Yeah.
this environment, for a few weeks or for a month or however long it was, you're stuck in this environment with the people that kissed another guy or that pissed you off in the challenge or when you felt lonely. So, how did you deal with your own mental health during that time and still present yourself as this really like likable and like charismatic person on the show?
Oh man, that was tough. I will say like we had some of the best people that could be around. We had like producers that were on set. We had people that were therapists, like licensed, and it was great because like you have that support if you need it. But like for me, I would say specifically what I would do is like whatever I was feeling, I would just say it in confessionals, and just kind of get it out. That's always been my thing. Like I've always held stuff in, so I went in there with like, all right, let me not be the same DeMari as before because obviously, like, although this is a huge opportunity, like I said, this is basically rehab. So like, I kind of need to be like better in a sense, like, so being able to tell somebody and or even speak to myself like and like validate, okay, you do feel this way, did really help me in these situations, because a lot of the time I don't do that, and I've even struggled with it since the show, or like obviously it's a period in between the show coming out and when it was shot. So I struggled with that then. I've struggled with it since the shows came out. Like obviously it's not like I'm fixed or that I'm completely better in that, but I definitely am better at being able to approach those situations and tough situations, like because it's tough, man. You are in there. Like when you're in it, you're in it. Like but you've watched the whole show. So like we'll put in perspective. Episode 3, 4, right? Maybe even
Okay.
5 a little bit. I was in the fire because I had just like you probably know where I'm going with this, like the whole Valentina situation, like with Brie and all that stuff. So like, bro, when you're in the fire in there, you're the fire, bro. Like it's like it's tough because like you said, everything happens so fast. So like for maybe 4 or 5 days straight, you're just fast, nonstop stuff is happening, and it's like, bro, I can't even process everything that's going on. But once you get on the other side of it, you're like, oh my god, like I actually feel like I know what I'm here for. This is the reason that I'm here. You know what I mean? Like I feel like everybody had that moment in the show for the most part that was like, okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I need to fix. For me, like obviously my word on there was like respect. So it's like, okay, I'm not even respecting myself. How can I respect somebody else? So it's like, oh wow, I didn't even notice that I was doing that because I'm just thinking that I'm like, all right, well, I'm me. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm cool. I'm a handsome guy. I can kind of do whatever I want to do. And yeah, so just sorry, I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but that 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 one.
Yeah, and I feel like as intense as it is, and you're painting a great picture for Netflix, so we should thank Netflix afterwards. I'm sure they'll be very happy with your interview so far. Um, but I think like I would agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, I mean, I obviously have not been on a Netflix show, but the idea of like going through all of these personal situations in which I feel like you obviously have navigated very well, as you talked about with your relationship with Brie, in
Mm.
October of 2024, all sounds amazing. But the fact that you do go through those really uncomfortable situations, it sort of trains you as a person. And, day-to-day life isn't as intense as that. And so it encourages you to make all of those conversations. Like, in fact, a lot of people, like for the older generation that don't know, a lot of people our age like to, or even in my generation, your generation, or like together, people under maybe 30 or 40, there's this thing of like ghosting. So you don't like someone, you can just ignore them these days. Whereas when you're put in that villa situation, like it's not like you can just ignore them. Like you're gonna see them the next day. And so I feel like under the surface of all the like sex and whatnot, it still has the great lessons, even for our generation, in having the uncomfortable conversations that we need to have.
I completely agree, bro. That's exactly what I took out of it. I'm like, all right, well, now I can address these things and I know how to, a lot of people are really uncomfortable with having that conversation, even avoid that conversation that they know that they need to have. And it's definitely helped me with processing things much easier, with being able to be like, all right, you know what? Like, I'm a man. I can have this conversation no matter what. Like, it's not like once I have this conversation, things have to be okay either way. You know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
whether I have the conversation or I don't, or however it goes, if it goes good or bad, at least I gave this other person, this other human being, the space to be able to like at least uh, process as well on their end. Like they see how I feel, they understand how I feel, to the least of like the thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's what
I, th- I think we've kind of like touched on it already, and you mentioned it about, you know, when you'd film the show and then you had a couple months or some period of time before it was posted, and you had a lot of like time to think about it yourself, and it's been probably a while, even longer time since then, and since the show's been out. Um, and you talk about like some people pointing out, oh, it's him from that show, and blah 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 blah, and your life has probably changed a lot because of that. But something I'm curious about is like, you think of like a LeBron James or something, right? Like he's playing basketball on a consistent basis. You'll see where I'm getting at. He's playing basketball on a consistent basis. His day-to-day life might be like recorded by the press. So it's not like LeBron James played in this game, in January of this year, and then the only thing that we really know about LeBron James is everything that he did in that one game. And then people are still talking about that game, and people are watching that game at different points of time and then giving their opinions on that game or even in that series.
Yeah.
They're saying LeBron James did this well in this season, and now in this game he did well. And it's a very like real time thing. Whereas with what you did and with your show, it was a fixed period of time in the past in which you were in this villa for a month or 6 weeks or however long it was. You then had a couple months of living your life and doing whatever you wanted to do. You then become, you get way more like followers and fame because of it. And
Mhm.
now when a lot of people talk to you, they're going to be talking to you about something that happened
Yeah.
a couple of months or 6 months ago. So I was wondering, like, if that like pisses you off a little bit, because like, DeMari's got all of this stuff to offer, and yet, the only thing that anyone can talk about is episode 4 of Too Hot to Handle or whatever, and how
Yeah.
that's like how you've dealt with that.
Um. So it's got some good questions here, bro. But like, yeah, man, it's tough sometimes because like I'll go on Twitter or Reddit or something like that. Like these are places where people are basically meant to talk bad about you. You know what I mean? And try to see how
Yeah.
many people can. So it's tough because like we're 3 months, almost 4 months removed from the show coming out, and it's like almost 3 months removed from the show coming out, and people are still like responding like, "Oh my God, how did you kiss her?" Or sending me like super crazy DMs. I'm like, bro, shut up, bro. This was literally a year ago. like, like,
We can
I'm
send them
not
this clip. We can send them this clip now. You don't have to keep typing it.
right.
Like, shut up. Just send them the one clip. Yeah.
I just need them to be like, bro, shut up, bro. This happened a year ago. That's all I need. like honestly, bro, we shot it so long ago. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not even the same person as I was then. And for you to even judge me based off of those things is what it is. But like, I understand that people are just watching this and they're fans. They need an escape from reality. That's what we're giving them. You know what I mean? Like if you play video games, anything that you're doing, if you watch TV, you watch movies, you go play basketball on the weekends, or if you go play soccer. I know you're from UK, so maybe you guys do that a little more. But
Football.
football, my bad. But you know what I mean? So like, that's an escape from reality. You need that in your life. And I'm able to provide that for people. So they hold that near and dear to their heart. Cool. Understood. But once you start sending hate mail, all right,
Yeah.
relax, my guy. Like, but even with like I think about that, like how you brought up LeBron James and his whole life, like he's been under scrutiny his whole life. I'm only judged on one season, 10 episodes of Too Hot to Handle. LeBron James, his whole entire life is under scrutiny, and people hate him for just being great. You know what I mean? I can't complain too much when I see something like that. When I see somebody who has like hyper fame or super fame or things like that. So I mean, it is what it is, the blessing and the curse, because like you were saying, there are things that come with this whole um, being on the reality TV show of like fame and hopefully some fortune here is coming pretty soon. You know what I mean? And like things like that. So I don't really mind it. I think it is what it is. I understand the game. I understand how this goes. It's the transaction.
What has being on the show taught you about human nature?
Uh, about human nature. I guess I'll say it's taught. I'll kind of speak more inward. I'll speak more for myself instead of just outwardly, like how we were just talking about other people. Um, the things that you don't deal with end up coming up regardless. So like I was saying, there were things in the show that I was supposed to handle when I was maybe 15, 16 years old that I didn't. There were traumas that I was supposed to handle when I was a child, well, from being a child until the age of 27, that I didn't handle, that I actually should have. And they ended up even coming up in the show, you know? So um, it kind of allowed me, like we were saying, to handle things more in the moment and being able to be more vulnerable with myself and honest with myself. And then that allows me to be more honest and open with everybody else. So I think that it just kind of taught me to go about it that way and be more open and honest.
And
We aren't open and honest with ourselves, man. Like most people aren't, bro. Like we want to think the best of ourselves all the time. Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off. We want to think the best of ourselves at all times. We always want to think, okay, I'm inherently a good person, and most people are. And but we do have flaws. We do have things that we need to learn. We do have things that are harming other people and ourselves. And I believe that like when we don't address those, we're kind of handicapping ourselves on the types of relationships that we can have and the levels that those relationships can get to. And I think maybe that's even scary for some people. So I think a lot of us are delusional and scared. We'll put it that way.
and how would you? Because now you've got this big platform,
Mm-hmm.
like with yourself or even with the people you know. How would
Mm.
you go about like fixing this problem you talk about in which people are delusional and scared?
Um, I think it's so inward that I can only address what I see. And I think that's the help that I can give is okay, let's take accountability for these things. Because a lot of us have a victim mindset naturally, just because it's like in life, things happen to us, but we never really happen to things. We never really are like the reason that things happen or why they continue. But in all reality, or like we like to think that way, but in reality, we happen to things. So it's like, all right, so if you're thinking that way, that means you have the ability to change it as well. So kind of addressing that, spreading this message to people like, okay, you can change things. You do have that power. Because a lot, especially American people, like sometimes we'll feel powerless. And I think that that's kind of how I can help is just giving my insight, trying to give my wisdom to other people, especially to youth. And I've always done that.
Think the initial thought behind why I wanted to know your perspective on human nature. So like a very famous experiment, you probably heard of it. It was called the Stanford Prison Experiment, in which they got a group of guys and half of them they told them you're going to be the prison guards and half you're going to be the prisoners. and I think it was supposed to be a 2 week experiment to see what would happen. And very quickly, the people that were supposed to be the guards acted as if they were and started beating the prisoners, and it got so bad that they had to actually, stop the experiment rather quickly. And drawing the parallel to Too Hot to Handle, you've got 16 or whatever it is. I keep changing the number of the most beautiful people on the planet who are sure are trying to find love and reform themselves, but at the same time are being shown on a camera with some of the best producers on the planet, making it into a storyline, being shown in front of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And like I'm more coming at it from an angle of like, sure, I could be on the show and I could speak to DeMari and have the best conversation. But do I think you're being genuine because you're a great guy? I'm sure maybe in your case. Or is it merely because this person wants to look good on camera and make their personal brand seem the best possible?
Oh yeah, that's a great point, man. That's something that I struggle with knowing. I feel like that for myself. Obviously, like everything's not gonna get on TV. So like how I'm joking around with you, how I'm like this like kind of vibrant, a lot of energy. Like maybe like I don't edit the show. You know what I mean? They're not gonna show my complete personality, so
I'm
people don't
cutting it
truly.
out. I'm cutting it out.
Okay. That's what they did too. So like obviously they don't like it's a serious situation. I'm like trying to find love. I'm also trying to work through trauma and do all this stuff while I'm on the show. So like maybe I'm not even as vibrant as I usually am and all of this stuff because it's not as serious. But um like I was saying, it's something that I struggle with knowing now. You don't really know who's genuine. You don't really know who they are until they show you who they are. And we all have different layers of who we are. So, I mean, for me, all I can do is speak on myself. I know that I was myself. And I wasn't going to compromise that for anything because at the end of the day, when this show came out, it still had to be DeMari Davis. Like I'm walk around everywhere. I don't get to play a
Yeah.
character. I'm still like the name is DeMari on the show. You know what I mean? So if it was like a character or something like that, then I can kind of tap into that and I can separate this. Yo, that's not real life. Leave me alone. But I have to live with every single decision that I made on the show. So if somebody did or was to act in a way that maybe wasn't genuine or who they are as an individual, they have to live with that. I just wasn't going to do that.
Yeah, and I feel like now that you're on like the other side of things, like before you'd probably see a lot of famous people, particularly on social media, presenting themselves on social media in some manner in which they're likable or strong or motivational or funny. But now you're on the other side of that, and I'm sure you've met a lot of awesome people following that. Would you agree or disagree with the statement of never meet your heroes following your experience after the show and gaining all this fame and publicity?
You know, you don't know what you're going to get. So I have had experiences with like meeting people even in between the time of the show coming out and stuff like that. And like I said, I'm from Indiana, so I didn't meet like anybody famous almost growing up. So it can be sour sometimes, but it can be amazing. Like you'd be like, oh, this is a great person. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
say that. I think you actually need to meet your heroes so you can stop idolizing these people because they're all just regular human beings at the end of the day.
All right. So now probably what everyone's probably most interested in. You get on the show. DeMari's arrived on the Too Hot to Handle set. We've arrived. We're ready. We're about to go on for the first time. So
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, whatever. Like you
That's quite
suddenly
literally how it happened, by the way.
quite literally how it happened. Like you're there and you're like ready. You're like, you're ready to show your amazing self to the world, find love, reform yourself, and whatnot. And I want to initially focus on the money part and then the love part. So money wise, you have this pool, like this prize pot.
Mhm.
It's a large amount of money to anyone listening, and anyone on the show that can actually win. It's a large amount of money. What are you thinking to yourself? Are you thinking, let me break as little rules as possible to make as much money? Are you thinking, having seen the show before, I need to break as many rules so I get as much screen time as possible so I can make money in the distant future? Like, what's your mindset with regard to money on the show from the get-go, and how did that change over the course of the series?
So when they actually announced the prize pot like was 250,000, I was like, I'm not doing anything. I want as much money as possible. Like I was a stockbroker, bro. Of course I want as much money as possible, but I do understand like the premise of the show. Like you do have to also do something to be able to like have a story in the show in order to be able to win, possibly. So like, I mean, it went into thought at first where I'm like, all right, well, you know what? First 24 hours, I'm just gonna do whatever I kind of want to do, and then after that, maybe I'll clean it up. If like I don't want to go out here and do anything crazy. Like I was never gonna spend 40,000. We know what that is. I was never gonna have sex. I was never gonna like do those types of things that would like actually kind of misrepresent who I am as a person. But tempting, very tempting, by the way. But like, yeah, man, that's kind of my thought process on the money part. I guess it was just like, all right, I'm gonna try to save as much money. I'm gonna do my part. I'm a team player. I played basketball my whole life. I played football. I ran track and field. Played a little like actual European football, a little bit. Yeah. So like, you know what I mean? I kind of had everybody on my mind as well as myself.
But you don't know them. Like, what do you owe them?
I mean, this is the type of person
And
I
they're
am.
breaking rules. They're breaking rules.
Oh yeah, no, I was upset about that though. Like I'm like, come on, bro. Like you can't
Yeah.
not kiss somebody in bed for one night. Like, but I do think certain people are thinking about, okay, this is what I have to do to be a part of the storyline. So this is what it is. But I kind of was refraining from doing those things in an attempt to show myself discipline and to show like that I'm actually here for the right reasons.
With regard to like particularly this money element, what are your thoughts on the overall like idea of the show having been on it? And is there anything you'd change about it?
What do you mean? Could you ask that again in a different way?
So like the premise of the show is like, yeah, as we said, like 12, 16 people, whatever the number is, 250,000, break a rule, like lose money. At the
Yeah.
end, like someone that broke a few rules ends up like making it up and like becomes the winner. Like that's the premise of the show. So I'm
Yeah.
asking you, do you think it's like a good idea for a show? Like, do you actually like the show? And then I'm asking, would you change it in any way?
Um, I mean, technically, yeah, I do like the idea of that. It's gotten patched a little bit, I guess I would say. Like a lot of people do understand that, hey, this is kind of the formula to winning.
Yeah,
Um, or
I
think
know.
this,
Like, put me on the show. I've got it. Give me like 5 years, and I've got it.
like you understand this is
I know
a
exactly what I need. Exact
what you need to do to win the show.
bang.
Exactly. Because it's 6 seasons out now. You know what I mean? Like you've been a super fan of it for so long. You
Super
understand.
fan.
So like,
Do you want the little backstory real quick?
yeah, yeah.
All right, so I'll go on and I similar to you, I'll be like a finance. I'll feel like a finance person. So it
Okay.
looks like I don't need the money. It looks like I don't need the money. I go on the show and I act like I'm really smart. You know, I'm
Mhm.
just talking about like finance in the show. But then I have some really bizarre like hobby or something. Like I pretend like I can sing or play the guitar really well, but I actually can't. Like I pretend that's what I'm gonna do. So people find that really sweet. The producers think, oh, that's really funny, blah, 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 blah. I go on the show, like day one, I'm like, no one break any rules. I'm the most uptight out of everyone. First night, break the rules. Everyone's absolutely
What rule?
flabbergasted.
What rule you
I'm
break?
not saying on this podcast. No, nothing's been said, but that's night one. You break the rules. You can't tell anyone before because that doesn't make good TV.
Yeah,
You're then in the huddle and you do like a Louis, like you don't tell anyone, you're just laughing to yourself. You don't tell anyone, then you're like, oh no, like break the rules. I didn't mean to tell anyone. Then
yeah,
again, you break the rules again, and you just keep breaking the rules, but you glide, you like ride the wave so that you don't get kicked off the show.
hmm
And then every time it's like you're really on everyone else, but then they got this because the more that you like break the rules, the more the camera's on you and you've got the storyline. But
yeah,
as you've seen from this season, you've still got to stay on the show. So I think it's about riding that wave. But you've
yep.
got to get really annoyed at other people. I think that's part of it as well. But I think that would only work for the first like 3 episodes. So I'm not really sure past that. But
Yeah,
that's my plan.
I was just gonna say, I see a hole there, man. It's like if you keep breaking rules, bro, I don't think that Lana, the cone, I don't think
Yeah.
that this cone is gonna reward you with winning the show. I will say
I don't
that.
know, man.
I mean, like, I haven't really seen that happen. You've watched 6 seasons now, bro. Nobody who's won that many, who's broke that many rules is winning.
But maybe I had a long-term goal. Like someone like Louis, right, who's
Okay,
broken rules, been on multiple seasons. He's got one of the biggest followings out of everyone on
that's
Too Hot to
everybody.
Handle.
Yeah,
And like, probably got a lot of financial rewards from it. So maybe I was taking the long-term view. It's not about winning in the short term, it's about the long-term success.
got you.
Maybe.
I'll take that.
That was that.
Mic drop right there. That was good.
My job. But no, sorry, I completely cut you off. I just thought it'd be funny to add. So I was asking like what your thoughts on like the concept were overall, and if you would fix it in any way.
Yeah, so like honestly, the problem I guess like it's patch, man. Like how they've actually like made the show how they're like everybody kind of understands what to do. I do notice that like in other seasons they've tried to incorporate different things of different people winning and stuff like that. But at the same time, like it's a formula, man. You kind of
Yeah.
you kind of know. Like I didn't like honestly, I didn't know because I like never watched the show for real. Like I watched it a little like to like prep myself for like going on, obviously. But a lot of people like you kind of understand what you can do to win and how you will win or whatever. But like you were saying, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would change, man. I think it would have to be something completely different. I think I would change the whole structure of the show, but we can go into that later. Not gonna lie.
No, this is the time. This is the time. I'm ready.
Okay,
This
I
is the
think that
time.
for me, like going forward, I would say, because since we had 6 seasons already, there's no point in me going back and like talking about the 6 seasons. If it
Of
was a
course.
season 7 or 8, I think it has to be like a Too Hot to Handle All Stars. Like it has to be like people, you know what I mean? Like people coming
Yeah.
back. Like okay, obviously you didn't learn the lesson. Let's try to see all these really extremely hot people from all the other seasons, and like put them all together and see who can, who's made the most progress or who can make progress actually, and add in more like actual challenges or things like that. Maybe it not just be workshops, you know, something
Yeah.
where maybe not so perfect matchy, where it's like couples challenges and stuff like that, but more so like a mental challenge. Are you actually growing here, or are you playing the game?
The only thing I was like, I think you said it there itself. Like the perfect match was like a similar type thing, trying to take, the top all stars from different shows and then putting them on and trying to have
Hmm.
couples and whatnot. But it just seems a bit like stupid to me because like the idea of like these shows in which they're trying to find love, but yet they're going on unlimited
Yeah,
shows trying to find love. It just seems like a bit fishy to me and like kind of takes away from the whole premise of the shows. You
yeah.
know?
Like, are you actually trying to find love at this point? That's why I was saying like the Too Hot to Handle All Stars, because like this is from the same type of dating show. You know what you're going back on. You know what you're signing up for. But we also know you already. So, like if it's Love Island and stuff like that from like Perfect Match or whatever, they're all coming from different shows, different premises. But we all have experienced Lana now. So, and Lana is really good with like fishing out for people who are there for themselves or if they're there for the actual experience. So I think that would actually make it different because you add in the perspective of Lana. Like, I don't believe you. You know what I mean? Like, Lana will basically say that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
believe that you're here for what you're saying you're here for. So get the hell out. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think when I was preparing for this podcast and thinking about what I was going to ask you, I was probably going to refrain from this topic because my unlike a lot of the probably other interviews, whether like news or like reading form or video form, a lot of the questions would probably focus on like what's going on with you and Bree, like what's your relationship status, what's this, and I
Yeah.
feel like that could be like very short term focused, whereas like a lot of the type of questions I usually ask can be you could listen to this podcast episode in 10 years time and the
Yeah.
lessons and journey and mindset that you would take away from the person would still be applicable.
Yeah.
But I think for you specifically, and you've already brought it up, I still feel like I have to ask this
Yeah.
idea of like love or at least finding a partner on the show. I would love for you to take me on the journey of like your mindset on the show and like how you went going about finding a partner and then what happened after the show and the place that you're at now.
Yeah. So just starting off like on the show, like when I first got in there, I'm one of the first people that walk in. So I'm looking, I see Lucy and I see Gianna. So I'm like, okay, all right, two really attractive girls. Not quite sure if they're what I'm looking for yet, you know what I mean? But I'm willing to see who all else is here. So then walks in Joao and he was by himself. So I'm like, okay, two guys, two girls. Okay, cool. So I know it's more people coming in. The next person that walks in is Bree. Oh no, Kalisha walked in before that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Kalisha walked in, then Joao. So now it's like 2 to 3. And then I'm trying to think if it was anybody else. It was Joao and Jordan. So now it's 3-3. And then Bree walks in. She walks the complete wrong way. And like everybody's, so it's like a grand entrance almost. It's like, oh, she walked the wrong way. I could tell she was short, but her legs looked like a mile long. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I kind of like this. She came with like a bunch of energy, confidence, and stuff like that. And that's like one of the things that I really look for is like confidence. Like you have to be really confident for me. And so like that was really cool. That kind of let me know something. And then like going through that whole journey, like I'm not sure of my like of anything because like I told you, I came into there like none of these relationships from reality TV shows usually last. So like I'm like I don't know if it's gonna happen for me. I don't really foresee it happening. I don't fall for people fast. Like I'm a like if we want to go with the word, bro, it's in real life standards. I'm a player. So like, even though I'm like a lover boy, I still have that in me. And like, so I'm like, all right, whatever it is, what it is. She's cool. She's like, vibing with her well, but I'm still suspicious. So then the whole Valentina, like we're vibing well, we're getting to know each other. And then the whole Valentina situation happens. And I'm like, yeah, I just lost something here. And after that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let me actually kind of tighten up and, uh, think about the situation more and see if this is actually what I want. So I sat down. I had a lot of like, not a lot of time because like I said, I'm in the fire at this point. So, and just how she responded to the whole Valentini situation and stuff like you guys see stuff on the screen or whatever, but you don't really know exactly what happens with everything. So like the way she responded to that situation, I was like, oh, okay, she actually respects herself, and I admire that because on the outside, I can kind of just be like, all right, yeah. So basically, this is what's going on. You can be here. You don't have to. And usually, I get met with the I still want to be here. So like, she was like, nah, forget that, forget you. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is new. So like, I'm not really knowing what to do in this situation. So that was kind of like eye opening for me, and just like I was able to go through those workshops after that, and like they really helped me change. If Bree didn't respond that way, I would have definitely not been able to be the person I am right now. And like she really helped me out with that, honestly, like helped me out with like becoming a better person. We've like talked about that, so I'll definitely give her flowers for that. But going forward in the show, like me being able to like win her back and like actually understanding what I did wrong, because like it was a while there where I was just like throwing shit at the wall, man. Like I'm like, bro, something has to work here. I want you back, so like let's try to figure this out. She's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, dang, that's crazy. This is something so new for me, bro. Like I don't have this problem. So like I mean, having to work for it like made it all more worth it, honestly. Like I'm like usually I don't have to do that. I don't have to really work for to be in good graces, or even if I do, I'm like, all right, forget it. It's what it is. But having to face those situations like head on and seeing every single day when you're looking across the room, you can visibly see how you're hurting somebody. Yeah, that's tough, bro. Like you have to be a strong person to just continue to hurt somebody after you see something like that. So, or a bad person to continue to hurt somebody. So, we ended up going forward, and like obviously we ended up making it official on the show, which was crazy to me because like I told you, I didn't think that I was going to find anybody while I was in there. So like that was really cool. That was a genuine moment, man. And like all of this stuff that happened was like really genuine. And going forward, like it didn't quite work out when we first got out of the show and stuff. Like it didn't last too long. I won't say like a time frame or anything like that, but it didn't last too long. And we ended up separating and like parting ways because like the real world in comparison to there is so incredibly different. Like it's just us in there. We don't have phones. We don't have any of the outside access to the world. Barely talk to our parents. You know, like you're in a bubble basically. You're in an I won't say that either on here, but you're basically it's basically like it's only us in the world, you know. And you got to go back outside to bills, and you got to go outside to outside drama and things like that, or just real life stuff. Like time is different. I'm going back to a 9 to 5 job from there, you know, so I don't have time as much. But
So how do you like manage like being able to separate your private life from your work life, because like even me, like I have no right to be asking you about your romantic life, but because you're on a show in which you became a couple, it seems like it's almost like public knowledge, and the world somewhat deserves to know. I don't agree with that, but that's just like how people think it is. So how do you like maintain that separation and also maintain a healthy relationship when the media and your fans view and want you to be one way when, day to day it's not always like that.
Um, so I think that it's public knowledge now that we had broken up for a while, and even when the show came out, we were trying it. Like before the show came out, we were trying it again, like seeing if we could actually be in a relationship again, and it didn't work out again. And then we're kind of we're trying it again now, honestly, and we like actually are probably the best that we've been right now, and it's really really interesting to see. But you know, me and her feel two completely different ways about things in the sense of, does certain things have to be public knowledge? What does and what doesn't? For me, I don't feel like I owe anybody anything. I'm not going to tell you what's all going on in my relationship. And because, like, at the end of the day, you're asking because you saw it on the show. I was the escape from reality for a little bit. And now you
Yeah.
feel like you have complete carte blanche to whatever I have going on in my life. And you don't. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
don't feel like that's right. I don't feel like that's the truth. I don't feel like you should have access to every single emotion that I'm feeling for my girlfriend or for whomever I'm dealing with at the moment. And um, she has created a space on her platform where she is kind of having to speak on certain situations because she speaks on just about everything. So people expect that from her. But you don't expect that from me because I'm not making that the standard. So, like, because if I start addressing stuff now, if I start addressing everything now, then I have to do that. I have to continue that from this point forward. I don't want to do that.
Again, I'm gonna like this question's not referring to your relationship with Brie because,
Mhm.
as I said, this is not a relationship-based podcast, and I'm
Mhm.
not trying to get in cause arguments or anything. But something I've noticed, like, and I don't really follow that many gossip or media, like, I call them stalkers, but
Yeah.
freedom of speech and all that. Um, no, I agree with freedom of speech, but sometimes there's a line to be drawn. But that's my
Mm.
question exactly. Like, where is the line to be drawn? If someone feels like, I need to know about are they still together? I think that's different to taking photos of them going on holiday together or at the beach or following them to their car at a gas station. Like, where do you think reporters and stuff should draw the line at like following these public figures with regard to their romantic lives?
Um, I think what you're asking kind of just exposes a bigger problem of people being like idolizing people.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done that. I've been a victim of that myself, not taking pictures of people and like posting it anyway without them knowing. But like, um, you know, I mean, Kobe Bryant, he was my favorite, like one of my favorite people ever. If I saw Kobe Bryant in public, I would absolutely fan out. I would still respect him just because like I'm not an absolute weirdo. But like, uh, I mean, it would, or if I saw him out, obviously past tense RP. But um, that was that. I feel like that's the thing. Is just like some people don't have a boundary. They don't think that there's a boundary because they feel like that um, because you're famous, because you have some type of influence that you owe this to the world to be this all the time. And I don't believe that's the truth. It's cool. You can ask me for a picture. You can ask me to whatever, but don't come up to me asking me personal questions or what happened with you and Bree. I don't ask you that about you and your boyfriend at home. I don't ask you what happened between your mom and your dad and they got divorced. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that. That's not right. I don't believe. But at the same time, I get that. Like the reason that they're asking is because I was on the show and that I was so like openly romantic and openly um, like expressive of who and what I wanted with her. So um, I understand. I get why they do it. I just it's just kind
Yeah.
of nasty. I don't like it. I like some of these blog sites. Oh my god, they don't sleep. They have to have multiple people running this page, bro. Like it's so many of those pages. I'm like, yo, how are you guys? You know about this before I did. Like, bro, how did you know about this before I did? This is about me. Like, like for real, that's just the truth, bro. Like, I don't know. So
I,
yeah.
I think it's I mean it's not something that I want to get into now because I think it could be a whole podcast in and of itself.
Yeah.
But the idea of like cancel culture, like, sure, I get it, like, murderers and rapists and whatnot. Sure, I get that. But in terms of like, someone, blowing off a relationship or whatever, or doing something that's bad, the whole world feels like they can take it into their own hands. And like, we're all humans. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to say things we don't mean, do things we don't mean. But it's
Mhm.
not like, if I said this, who's not really a public figure, if I said something, you know, in private. It's not like DeMari. It's not you're going to be like, Harvey, what the fuck you said on the 12th of January 2019, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to happen. So I don't think it's fair for me to be able to do the same thing to you. But that's a discussion for the next time. But I wanted to ask, like, in terms of your career post the show, if I was to ask you, like, what is your job title and like, what is it that you would say that you do? What would you say?
Now I model full time. So
Okay.
I've completely changed that around. I'm also taking my music a lot more serious. So I am also a rapper about full time as well. I do that every day. And I also, I guess I would say influencer now, man. I hate using that word, but um, with the platform that I do have, I do try to spread like I'll put out like positive messages. Sometimes I try to make sure that the stuff that I'm even because it's so many kids, bro. Like people will send me hate messages. I'll respond to it and be like, yo, you're out of touch with reality. You need to go touch grass. And he's like, bro, I'm 12. I'm like, okay, cool. All right, my bad. But still, like you need to be worried about something else, bro. Like you can do a lot better with this time. You shouldn't talk to people like that. You know what I mean? And just try to like help people. And like a lot of the stuff that I put out there, like people really do take heed to it and they'll say thank you or like, oh my God, I needed this message right now. You don't know how much this meant. Or even just sending me positive messages after I've sent out positive messages to people that maybe have reached out to me in my DM and just was like, oh, I loved you on the show. And I like send them a message like, oh my God, I wouldn't even expect you to respond, especially not like that. So like just continuing to always be the positive person that I am. And doing that before, but that does come with the influencer part, I guess, of it. I don't like saying that word, but yeah.
I I think with the role of a stockbroker, right, for those that don't know and don't know that much about finance or about money or about investing, a lot of the ways in which people would be invest, they would probably advise against buying things like NFTs or against cryptocurrencies or against anything where they're like, you're going to make money quickly. Because
Yep.
sure, you might be right, but unless you have all the financial knowledge in the world, you're probably going to fail. And even the top investment managers and stuff fail. And so
Yep.
a lot of investment managers do is they say, buy XYZ over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you'll make money.
Yep.
But social media, to those that aren't as informed about it, and even to me, it can be seen as very short term. You've just been on the show, you've got a lot of publicity, you've got a lot of attention, you're getting a lot of followers, people are talking about you, and so you're getting this following. But you're not a stupid guy. You know that you have this long-term view over what DeMari wants to be and, preparing for the future. So how do you like, have the idea that what do you respond to the idea that people think that what you're doing is just focused on the short term instead of, on a longer term view?
Um, they don't know me then. Just because like there's a reason that I was a stockbroker. There's a reason that I have chosen the career paths and the ways that I'm doing things and how I've built myself up because I do understand things are temporary, even your looks. But I also understand that like, hey, right now, these 3 months, yeah, we're on top of the world. But in 6 months, I've even looked at like some of the other people, not to throw shade or any, like I'm not gonna say any names, but like I see the difference between when the show came out for them or like how their page was doing when the show came out compared to now. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to perform. I need to make a space for me to have something that is physical outside of this. So that's why I said I do modeling full time now. That's why I said that, or even we haven't spoken about it yet, but like acting and getting into acting classes because like this is the things that are going to allow me to still be able to be DeMari and perform and go at the level that I am at, but also having that background of being a stockbroker allows me to understand, okay, I have to just like think 3 or 4 steps ahead of everybody right now. No matter what's going on social media, yes, I have to kind of like gain momentum from this and like ride the wave of everything. So yes, influencer, all of those things. And even if I can keep that going, absolutely, because that's another stream of income. But the more important stuff is the physical things that I would be doing, that I am doing.
What I think is hilarious about that answer from someone that's uninformed in the world of social media is people think and thought and probably still think that social media is just, kids just grab their phone and take a little video and that's all it is behind it. But I think the fact from like your journey and what we've spoken about before and having that security to going on the show and even now, like while you're, you've made it, you're still looking at ways to improve, like, being an actor and being a rapper and whatnot. I have three final questions. The first one being, I feel like I would have to ask this, but what is your relationship like? I mean, you touched on it just now with seeing how differently people have changed, but what would you say your relationship is like with the other cast members now?
Um, I have a good relationship overall with everybody. Like, I won't lie, man. There's been some drama on the cast, like since the shows came out or whatever. But like, it's not mine. So I still have pretty good standing with everybody. I've been genuine, been myself. I've been the same person as when I walked in the villa. So I like we were talking about. I understand that this is all kind of temporary, like the fame of things and all of that stuff. So just allowing myself to continue to be myself the whole time. But like I've had a great relationship with just about everybody. Like some of obviously like we aren't all the closest friends because that's not gonna be reality at all anyway. But like the people that I am closest with is like uh Jalen and Chris and obviously like Bree. Me and Charlie are pretty cool too, but it's just like those are the people that I gravitate towards. I have some relationships with other people as well on the cast, but I talk to Chris almost every day. Like he's one of my best friends. Jalen, I talked to him. I was just on a trip with him like a week ago. So like, you know what I mean? Like you find your tribe, I would say.
And I think you also similarly just touched on it. But what's next for you over the next 5 years?
A lot more, man. I'm gonna be. I plan on seeing my face everywhere, even more so than it is right now. I want to truly get into, like I said, I have about 3 different fields that I'm in right now. But I want, if we're going 10 years out instead of 5 years out, I want to be a big time actor, scripted actor. I want to then also be doing more of my music as well, which maybe one of these things blows up first, and then it makes opportunity for the other one. But my music as well, that's very important to me. And then obviously modeling and stuff like that, as I've shown that I've worked a lot on that prior to the show as well.
And then my final question, and I ask this to every guest, is what is one thing that you would want a listener to take away from this episode?
One thing I would want a listener to take away from this episode is just being yourself, bro. Like, that is going to make you, or in anything that you're doing, the only thing that can really stop you from like being your best possible self is you feeling like you have to put on a persona or do anything outside of yourself. Yeah, you're going to have to make improvements along the way, but at the same time they're all going to be improvements to who you are as an individual already. I don't think that you have to act any way outside of yourself to be who you want to be truly. Maybe you got to tighten up some stuff. Maybe you need to be more disciplined. Maybe you need to, if you party all the time, maybe you need to stop doing that, like, or stuff like that. But it's not changing who you are. If you're vibrant, be a vibrant person. If you're a serious person, be that person. If you're crazy, if you're any of those things, just be that to the highest extent that you can be. And then once you need to change it, you can bring it down, So I really think that's my biggest thing is just being completely, openly, honestly, and comfortable with being yourself.
I think that you've taken me on an incredible journey throughout your life from tour to handle and given me and everyone listening amazing details, and I'm sure there's a lot we can all take away from it. Because although it's not real and sure that impacted your real life relationship with Brie and other cast members and whatnot, it gives you like a sped up example in which you have to face your fears, in which you have to have those uncomfortable conversations. And I feel like for you as a person, you've been able to learn a lot from that. And I think it's really interesting. And for me, as I said, not really having known you before, I mean, we've never spoken before this podcast. And like, I think the perceived view for a lot of people is oh yeah, he just takes his shirt off and takes photos, and then yeah, he had this show, and then if he's lucky again, and if he's lucky again, if he's lucky, it for some reason this sort of industry is all deemed on luck. Oh, this person was lucky, they look good, or they do this. But actually, when I think what people will be able to take away from this episode is like how calculated and how smart you can be from how you act and how you want people to perceive you, not in a negative manner, but even with regard to the prize money, it's how can I be a team player? How can I give back? And I think that's going to serve you really well for the long run. I feel like I've taken away a lot from this episode. I'm still going to have to speak to you again sometime to work out how I can win the show. But apart from that, I feel hugely honored, and thank you so much, DeMari, for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Harvey. I really appreciate you having me on here. Those words are amazing, bro. You keep doing what you're doing, man. You got some like incredible questions, some of the best questions that I've answered on just about any podcast or interview that I've been on. So I really do appreciate it, bro. You got a great
Well,
thing.
maybe you can ask me the questions when I'm going on Too Hard to Handle. You know?
I got you next time. I told you I'm gonna be
Next
the
time.
host here on Personable.
All right.